One. Hasmukh ji is an entrepreneur and a community leader for 30 years. He has a master's degree in electronics and he serves almost every community organization with his heart and soul in it. And here you go. We can talk all day about Hasmukh ji, but let Hasmukh ji have it.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me welcome every one of you to this grand celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And today we have gathered here not just to enjoy the great Indian food and the fantastic cultural program you could have witnessed today, but the main purpose is to really celebrate the achievements of India's progress over the last 75 years. In fact, and dream about where India will be in the year 2050. In fact, many of us who left in today's India is no longer the India many years of left 30 years ago, 50 years ago, or even 10 years ago. In fact, in the last 7 years, the progress India has made is 10 times greater than the progress they made in the 65 years previous to those last 7 years. So if you haven't been to India in 7 years, forget what you know, it's totally different India. So today, I would like to make a claim that India can be a superpower in the year 2050. Rameshji. Okay. So, please, next. Right, please. Superpower. What is a superpower? So, superpower in general we define as somebody with a tremendous amount of influence over the international scale. But then what does that really mean? What it really means is any country, as we say superpower means, they are superior in practically every aspect of the segment that touches our life. For example, economy, military, energy, infrastructure, anything. Everything that we touch and feel and we need in the life is when the country becomes superior to in every segment, that's country called superpower. As we all know, right now the superpower is none other than America, and it has been for nearly 100 years. But now, the new century, everybody says belongs to Asia. So let's see where does India stand. So let me start with the economy. There are many segments I'm going to touch. I'm going to speak little fast so that I can cover the subject. Now, I'm going to, just because they are talking about superpower, you have to talk a lot of statistics. I don't want you to worry about that. All I want you to do is at the end of every sentence, and I mean every sentence, all you have to do is remember which way India is going, up or down, and if it's going up, how fast it is going. Please remember that at every sentence. So let me start with the economy. India today is the 6th largest economy in the world, $3.3 trillion, and it is expected to be the 3rd largest by the year 2030, not 2050, 2030 to $10 trillion. India, in the purchasing parity power, India is the 3rd largest economy in the world and expected to be the second by the year 2050, and that will be larger than United States. Please look at on the bottom right-hand corner, the study by the time text. From 1991 to 2019, our GDP has grown by 772%, which is from 1 trillion to 9 trillion. Today, India's economy is the fastest growing major economy in the world, with a GDP rate of 8.5% to 9%. Now currently, India is the country with the 3rd most number of billionaires, 237 to be exact, and it doesn't include many of the billionaires sitting in this group. Now, due to the growing middle class, India's consumption market is also expected to grow to $3 trillion by 2030. Remember, when you want to become superpower, it doesn't happen in 1 minute or 1 day or 1 year or 2 years. It takes decades. So India has done a very good job of watching itself to say where can we in 2030, then 2040 and 2050. So 2030 is a very good target. Now I want to tell you a few general things which is As we all know, India is still the second most attractive manufacturing hub beside China, and as we know what's happening with China. Among top 5 most industrialized countries in the world, and going to become top 3rd by 2030 with an output of $3 trillion. It is the 8th largest exporter, going to become the 3rd largest by 2030 to $2 trillion. You can see in every line I'm talking, there is a growth, and it's not a growth, it's an explosive growth. So now when we talk about economy is not made up of one segment. There are many, many very critical segments. You cannot become a superpower just by having one, and I will give one example. For example, Middle East. If you are only selling the oil, you cannot become a superpower. If you only know the manufacturing, you cannot become a superpower. You have to have a superiority over many, many, many important segments. I'm going to touch few of those and see where India stands in each one of those segments. And you'll be surprised to know that in practically every sector, India is doing super. So let me start with what we call startup ecosystem. And this is the engine of the growth. When I say startup, means the new startup companies. India has the fastest growing startup ecosystem. India has the 3rd highest unicorns. Unicorn is a startup company with a valuation of over $1 billion. And India has 100 of them as of now, with the valuation of $330 billion. We have the third highest number of startups in the country, $65,000. And remember the next number, I had a hard time to believe this number, but I have to believe it. Last year alone, in 2021, 15,000 startup companies registered in India in 2021. As we all know, let me start with the IT sector. India is the largest outsourcing hub. We are the largest IT service provider, the 3rd largest software provider. And the revenues from software industry is expected to go from 200 billion in 2021 to 1 trillion by 2030. Let's look at the stock market. India has the fastest growing stock market. Everybody's trying to capitalize on their growth, and they should. Both the BSE and NSE are capped at $4 trillion each. Let's look at the pharmaceutical sector. India is considered the pharmacy of the world. It's the world's largest drug producer. It makes up 60% of the world's supplies. It is world's largest producer of the generic drugs. In fact, 40% of the generic drugs in the United States come from India. And 25% of all medicine in UK come from India. And also, world's 50% of the vaccines produced by India. And guess what? Vaccine demand is only going to go up, as we all know. Why? This is a new field, this is a technical field, but it's considered, in fact, Mr. Putin said that the next country that will rule the world is the one which is superior in artificial intelligence. Well, guess what? India is not far behind. India is the largest AI, it's called AI, artificial intelligence. It's the largest AI startup nation in the world. They have filed 4,000 patents in last 5 years in this field. They have also started making collaborations with the other countries who are good in this field. Now, we all know when it comes to education, India is the 2nd largest producer of engineers, doctors, and scientists. As we all know, 36% of NASA scientists are from India, 34% of employees at Microsoft, 28% of employees at IBM, and 30% of physicians in the United States are all from India. Now, major sector is manufacturing. As we all know today, China became powerful in manufacturing. However, it didn't become a superpower because, as I say, it takes a lot more than just being superior in one particular section. So let's see what India is doing. As we know, India has suffered in the past in the manufacturing sector, and so many things are happening, which is what causing now this manufacturing sector to grow. The manufacturing exports grew in India by 40% in the year 2022 to $418 billion. manufacturing export is expected to go to $1 trillion in next 5 years. This is according to the Bain and the company study. The Bain and company is the third largest company in the world doing such studies. Very well-known company. Now, we all know while India hasn't done so well in manufacturing sector, but let me give you some statistics. India today is the largest producer of spices, dairy product, tractor and two-wheelers. It is the second largest producer of smartphones, cement, textile, vegetable and fruits. Third largest manufacturer of large size trucks, jewelry and gems. And now India is the fourth largest car manufacturer. Remember, India was never considered a car manufacturer. It was a joke. But now India is coming up with vengeance. Now let me touch the military. As we all know, if anybody tells me that India is a military superpower, I will probably laugh. Even though I don't laugh, but I think I will probably laugh. But India, let me give you some statistics on India. India today is the fourth most powerful military in the world. It has the second largest military personnel to 1.4 million active military personnel and 5.1 million available to the reservists. It is the third largest, India does the third largest expenditure in militaries, $77 billion, and it spends about 2.5% of the GDP. Guess what? Japan spends only 1%. Now, you cannot talk about military without nuclear power. Nuclear armored country, that's India. And India is not only nuclear powered, it's called nuclear triad. There are, I believe, 4 or 5 countries which are considered nuclear triad. Triad means it can fire nuclear weapons from land, air, or water. And that's what India is. Now it possesses some of the world's most powerful nuclear weapons up to the range of 16,000 kilometer range. It has submarines with the nuclear warheads. India is one of the 4 countries which capable of destroying any country's satellite. Among 5 countries to have deployed and own advanced defense systems, anti-ballistic missiles, and hypersonic missiles. In fact, yesterday there was a news about the BrahMos 2. I didn't catch it, but BrahMos 2 is part of the supersonic missile. And India is the largest arms importer today. So it's catching up. Now, when we talk about military, you also have to nowadays talk about space, which was never considered, but now without space, you cannot be a military superpower. As we know, ISRO is right now world's top 5 space organizations. It has launched 344 foreign satellites for 36 countries, among which 130 were Indian origins. It has a world record of launching 104 satellites in one single space rocket. India is among the 4 countries to send satellite to Mars and Moon, and it is getting ready to send humans by 2023. It is among the 5 countries with its own GPS system. So if something happens, we will not be without GPS system. And obviously, all of it is at the lowest cost in the world. Now, another thing which has actually kept India far behind is infrastructure. Infrastructure is considered the backbone of any developing nation. And that's what has kept India behind for many years. India is taking so many strides in infrastructure. In fact, Mr. Gadkari has said that by 2025, the roads in India will equal to or better than United States. That's his statement. Now, India has launched $1.5 trillion of infrastructure. India has the highest number of mega projects under construction in the world. You can see the map. That map is what they call Bharatmala, which is connecting the entire nation with the highways and freeways like we have in the United States for up to 5,000 miles. Now, while India was building expressways, India got 3 world records of building concrete roads. India got the world record for building building 25 miles of roads in just one day. Now, I want you to pay a little attention to the chart. You will see the chart that the number of roads built in the last 10 years were more than double than what we did in the previous 70 years. Now, when we talk about infrastructure, in fact, the most important part of the infrastructure for a superpower is the port, because a lot of the stuff happens via waterways. You know, all the big ships and those things happen via water. So India has launched also to pay attention to the port modernization and new projects. India currently has 12 major ports and 200 non-major ports. In fact, 90% of the trade in India right now is through waterways because we didn't have good highways, which now is changing slowly. Sagarmala is the one project, $116 billion, assigned just to do this thing. By 2025, they have a roadmap to increase our capacity from 1,500 million tons to 3,300 million tons. And they are also will be building some new ports and increasing the efficiency and capacity of the ports. I just heard that India is also considering developing Andaman Nicobar for the major ports. Now let's talk about energy. In fact, it is said that United States became superpower by controlling the energy. So let's see what India is doing in energy. India right now is the third largest electricity producer in the world, and it is expected to be second by 2030. It is the third largest renewable energy. Remember, all this coal and all those dirty energy is being replaced by renewable energy. So India is stepping up there. It is the third largest renewable energy producer and is expected to be the second largest by 2030. Now, in the renewable energy, there is a sector called solar power. India has done a meteoric growth in solar power. India is the cheapest producer of solar power. In fact, the prices have dropped by 82%. India has created solar farms, not only solar farms on the land, but they have solar farms, solar canals, solar highways, floating solar plants. India is the fourth largest producer of solar power today. And some of the factors, I mean, all these things doesn't happen on its own. There are a lot of things that are happening and government initiative are the number one factor in all of this growth. Now, those were the major. There are some other side factors which also just have as much importance. I would like to touch quickly what we call the young demographics, which is people, young force and rising middle class. World's largest, India has world's second largest population, as we all know, and we're gonna surpass China by 2025 or actually 2027. But approximately 50% of the population is under the age of 24. That makes India the largest young force in the world. What it means is that our young force would remain very active and productive for many decades to come, whereas this force in countries like USA, China, Europe is declining, and that is going to pump the growth. We have the second largest labor force in the world, 550 million. We are the largest internet and smartphone users, 1.1 billion by 2025. We are the world's, India also has world's largest and safest payment system with digital transactions of 44 billion, whereas China has 15 and America has 1.5. And we all know Indian household own highest amount of gold in the world, 25,000 ton, worth $1.5 trillion. The last subject, there are many, but I think I'm running out of time. So the last subject is the political climate. India is the largest democracy in the world, in middle of Asia. India has complete individual freedom. India is politically influencing Asia, Middle East, Europe. India's strength lies in the world's democracies. I mean, India has strengthened ties with all the major world democracies like USA, Japan, Australia, European nations. And because of India's strategic location, being in middle of the Asia and Middle East and everybody, US, Japan, and Australia are working closely to combat China's influence in that area. India has the third largest contributor to UN peacekeeping force. India's military force is number 1 in the world. So, after saying all these things, I'm hoping that you remember my first 2 lines. That which way the India is going. So